Okay, we're going to look at sketching cubic functions and reciprocal functions. A cubic function is any function where the highest power of x is to the power 3. This graph here is like your parent graph, and later on in the lesson we'll be looking at transforming graphs by thinking about this as your kind of like parent graph, and then you kind of do things to it and what it then becomes and then looks like. And associated with it is this one here, okay, where you've got y equals minus x cubed. So x cubed is looking, positive x cubed is looking forward, whereas negative x cubed is leaning backwards. Okay, right. You also need to understand how to sketch factorised cubics. Let's just look at one first. This one here, that's the equation. What this means is that there are roots when x is 0, that's that one, when x, whatever makes this bracket 0, when x is minus 2, and when x is 3. So by knowing where the roots are, we can plot those. And then, if we wanted to know what the height, where it crosses the y-axis, when x is 0. So obviously, if I put this x0 here, I would get a value of 2, but then x is 0 here, so 0 times 2 is still going to be 0. So that's why our y value is 0. So the y value is 0. So now joining these together, what happens is, you can see, we know that positive x times positive x times positive x will give us positive x cubed. So it's going to be leaning forwards like this one. So we're going to draw it from this direction. So we come down through the root, up and down. That's how we're going to draw it. Whereas over here, although this one had the same roots, so the roots were at 0, minus 2 and 3, because of this minus sign here, we're leaning backwards and we're going to draw it from this direction, like that. Okay, let's look at another. Okay, here we have an example of a repeated root. The equation of this line is, of this curve is y equals x plus 2 x minus 1 squared. Now see this root here at x equals 1, that gives us this bracket here, and it's squared to show it's a repeated root, and visually the way that looks is it comes down and it kisses it and comes back up again. It doesn't slice through, unlike here where we have at x equals minus 2, which gives us this root, this bracket. Okay, so our sketching checklist over here, right? These are things to remember when you're asked to sketch. When x is 0, where does it cut the y-axis? So as you can see in this case, when x is 0, this bracket would be worth 2. And here when x is 0, this bracket would be minus 1 squared, which would be 1. So that would give us y equals 2, which is why we can see here it crosses the y-axis at 2. When y equals 0, that shows us where the roots are. And here we can see when y is 0, if we make this bracket, when x is 0 here, to make this bracket 0, x is minus 2. To make this bracket 0, we have to have x as being 1. So things to watch out, things to notice are, you need to find where it crosses the y-axis, you need to find where it crosses the x-axis, and then you need to check to see if it's got a repeated root. So if we had y equals x plus 1, x minus 2, x minus 3, the sketch of that, first of all, when x is 0, so when x is 0, we're going to find out where it crosses the y-axis. So the value of this bracket would be 1, the value would be 1, the value of this bracket would be minus 2, and the value of this bracket would be 2, not minus 2. The value of this bracket would be 3. 1 times 2 times 3 is 6. So it's crossing the y-axis at 6. Now we put our roots in when y is 0. So we've got a root at minus 1, we've got a root at 2, and we've got a root at 3. Now, have we got any repeated roots? No. So, quick sketch of that. Also looking to see if we've got a positive x cubed or a negative x cubed, and we've got positive because positive x times positive x times positive x, positive x cubed. So we're coming from this direction, we're going to come slice through, slice up, cut through there and down. That's what that one looks like. How about y equals x minus 2 all squared, x plus 1. Okay, let's find out first of all when x is 0 where it crosses the y-axis. So when x is 0, this bracket is worth minus 2, but that's minus 2 squared, so that would be 4 times by when x is 0 here times 1, so y would be 4, so I'm going to put that on. Then when y is 0, this is where it crosses the x-axis, these are our roots, so we have a root at, well, this bracket here we'll have a root at minus 1, and here we'll have a root at 2. Now see how it's squared, that means it's a repeated root. So and am I positive x cubed? Yes, I am. So it's coming from this direction, leaning forward. So I'm going to choose a different colour. I'm going to come down, kiss there, and slice through. That's what that one's going to look like. Something like that. So now we're going to look at the reciprocal function, which is this function here, which is a recap from GCSE, and you should know that it has this shape here, and it also has this shape here, where where y equals 0 is an asymptote, so this section here never quite touches it, and the same here never quite touches it. It's closer and closer, but it's undefined. And the same is true of this asymptote here, that this section gets closer and closer to x equals 0, but never quite touches it. And you should really be able to quickly recall y equals minus 1 over x, which is a reflection and looks like that. Now make sure that you have all the relevant pages of your booklet filled in with the graphs and the examples ready for your next lesson.